Afternoon. Wow, that's tall. I'm not. Hang on a second. We're going to just play with this a minute. Sorry, Michelle, you're taller than me. Our culture succeeds every day at knocking people down. School, work, media. It all tells us how much we lack, how much better we should be. It breaks our spirit, it overwhelms us, and it makes us feel like we are failures. Among all of these negative influences, how are we to be the light? How can we help others to find joy, and in doing so, bring more joy to our own lives? In his book, Love Does, Bob Goff writes, "I used to think the words spoken about us describe who we are, but now I know they shape who we are. Our harshest critics are not at work or school. They're often at home. The criticism our family dishes out can be some of the most painful. Our family can be the most skilled at pushing our buttons. After all, they installed them. But what do you want your loved ones to hear from you? The good or the bad? Do you want to be the person who speaks life into your family, the one who builds them up, or the one who tears them down? How do you want your words to shape the lives of those around you?" I haven't always been an encourager. I could be incredibly sweet to strangers, but I was very critical and judgmental of the people closest to me. Of course, I didn't think I was critical. I thought I was just making friendly suggestions to better their lives. Clearly, I knew exactly what everyone else should do. But the people who knew me, the people who spent the most time with me, were afraid of me. And at one point, I was even proud of that. Over the years, I realized I was not a nice person to be around, and I didn't even enjoy spending time with myself. I knew I had to change. My work at the time made me livid every single day. I was very good at my job. Many people respected me, but I was always angry. When I finally left that position, a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders. I was able to begin the process of learning how to be nice. I have often said that sarcasm is my first language. I learned English later. My first reaction was always to be sarcastic, often cruelly so. We tear people down to make ourselves feel better, but it doesn't really work. In the end, we just become more bitter and more miserable ourselves. For me, this whole transformation began before I came back to Christ. I had been saved as a teenager, then promptly ran away from God as fast as I could. I was sure I had better plans for my life than he did, and I wanted to be in control. So I did. I controlled my life for 18 years, and most of my carefully laid plans failed miserably. As I started learning what it felt like to be a nicer person, other things in life were pointing me back to God. Coming back to Christ finally underscored for me how very much I needed to change my behavior and the way I treated other people. I had already started that process, but I had been working without a map. Now I had a guidebook. Francis Chan, in his book Crazy Love, challenges us to read 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 7, substituting our own names for the word love. As Chan writes, the first few times you do this, it feels like a lie. Go ahead, try it. Kay is patient. Kay is kind. Kay is not jealous or boastful. She is not arrogant or rude. Kay does not insist on her own way. She is not irritable and resentful. She does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices with the truth. Kay bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Excuse me? I don't know who I thought I was talking about there, but it sure wasn't me. I was just the opposite of all of that. I was not at all patient, only occasionally kind, sometimes jealous, often boastful, definitely arrogant, and sometimes downright rude. It was my way or the highway. I liked the idea of the truth, but I certainly didn't ever feel constrained by it. I put up with nothing, believed in very little, was frequently hopeless, and complained about everything. What kind of a ridiculous idea was this, to use the Bible as one more way to beat myself up and feel inadequate? And yet, I started trying it. I started reading these 3 verses every morning, putting my name in for the word love. During the day, when I was frustrated, annoyed, or wanted to lash out, these same words would pop into my head. K is patient, K is kind. It became almost a mantra for me. Some days, I growled it to myself. K is patient, K is kind, K does not insist on her own way. These words, repeated daily, that did not describe me at first, began to shape who I was becoming. After a little while, it wasn't so hard to remember. I yelled them at myself far less often, although still sometimes. And although I knew I still had lots of growth to do, the words started to feel like a little bit less of a lie. I began to look for ways that I could make the words more true. I started putting in effort to encourage people, to find ways to build them up. I began to choose my words with more care. I began to guard my tongue, easier said than done, and to use a more pleasant and friendly tone of voice. It's so easy to find something to criticize. We are all faulty. Instead, I have taken it on as a personal challenge to try to find things about others to praise. It became something of a mission for me. In the process, I became a nicer person and a better friend. Bob Goff also wrote, "The words people say to us not only have a shelf life, but the ability to shape life." Your words have a long shelf life, especially the written word. It makes a lasting impression. When I've received written notes of encouragement, I keep them and I reread them whenever I need a boost. Some of you have sent some of those to me. You never know what people will remember or hold on to. I create handcrafted greeting cards. A few years ago, before my coworkers knew of this hobby, I began secretly giving out cards. I would print the notes on my computer so it wouldn't give away my handwriting. And I would make a point to select one big project that that person was working on and recognize the challenges they were facing and then compliment them on how well they were dealing with that. I signed each one Barnabas. On the back of the cards, I included a little printed note explaining that Barnabas was a companion of the Apostle Paul and that he was known to be an encourager. This was a number of years ago. Just a couple of weeks ago, I found one of my Barnabas cards on a coworker's desk. For over 4 years, she has held on to that card, keeping it at her very small and very overcrowded desk. Your words have a long shelf life. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up." What if you found one nice thing to say to everyone you met this weekend? What if everyone you met had something nice to say about you? In this crowd, that would be wonderful, but maybe not entirely surprising. Now try doing that at work, at school, and most importantly, at home. Let the people that you love hear love from you. Build them up so that they are strong enough to withstand the attacks of this world. I've been on this mission for a few years now. Here's what I've discovered. Encouragement is contagious. When you encourage someone else, their spirits are lifted and they can encourage others. Your single smile, hug, or kind word reaches much farther than the one person you touch. When you make someone feel good, it carries on to others as well. None of us gets out of this life alive, and you can't take anything you have with you when you go. Bob Goff reminds us, don't save up love like you're trying to retire on it. Give it away like you're made of it. Love, encouragement, and hugs, they all multiply, and when you give them, you get them back. When you encourage others, it lifts your spirits as well. I've learned that when I focus on building someone else up, it's hard to continue being miserable myself. So the next time you're having a difficult day, look for someone else to encourage. It will not only make their day brighter, but yours as well. Maya Angelou once said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." How do you want to make others feel? Be Barnabas. Let the love of Christ shine through you and lift people up with encouragement. Thank you very much.